Jack Bennett brushed dust from the ancient data cube. His fingers trembled slightly as he placed it into the reader. The holographic display flickered to life, filling his small office with soft blue light. After nearly 49,000 years since humans first left their solar system, Earth had become more legend than reality to many across the stars. "Play archive file," Jack said. The image of a human woman in an outdated uniform appeared. First contact report, year 2743. The Alvari delegation expressed surprise at our survival. They classified Earth as a death world due to its high gravity, extreme weather patterns, and dangerous wildlife. They seemed genuinely shocked we evolved intelligence under such conditions. Jack paused the recording. As a historian from Earth's colony on Proxima Centauri, he had spent his life studying humanity's journey to the stars. This was not the first time he had found references to Earth being considered harsh by alien standards. What seemed normal to humans was apparently brutal to many other species. His communication device buzzed. Jack answered, and the face of his research partner appeared. "Jack, you need to see this. The news is everywhere." "What news?" "The Galactic Council's central star system is collapsing. They need a new headquarters. Earth is on the shortlist." Jack blinked in surprise. The Galactic Council governed over 700 species across the galaxy. For Earth to potentially host such an important institution was unheard of. Thousands of light years away, Lisa Mercer stood at the window of her office on Thalassa, the current Galactic Council headquarters. As Earth's ambassador, she represented humanity's interests to the stars. The view outside showed the first signs of the coming disaster. The central star's unusual color had shifted from yellow to a deep orange. Lisa's assistant entered the room. "Ambassador, the High Chancellor requests a private meeting." Lisa nodded. The High Chancellor was the most powerful political figure in the known galaxy, an ancient being from one of the founding species of the Council. When Lisa entered the Chancellor's chamber, she was surprised to find it darkened, with only a single light illuminating the Chancellor's 7-foot-tall, spindly form. "Ambassador Mercer," the Chancellor spoke, voice like rustling leaves. "What I am about to tell you must remain confidential for now." "Of course, Chancellor. The Council needs a new home. Our scientists give us less than 15 years before this star becomes unstable. After careful consideration, Earth has been selected as one of 5 potential candidates for our new headquarters." Lisa kept her face neutral despite her shock. "Earth would be honored, Chancellor. Though I must ask, why Earth? We are relatively new to galactic society." The Chancellor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "That is precisely why. The other candidates are ancient civilizations, set in their ways. Earth represents something different. Your people have achieved in 50,000 years what took others millions. Your adaptability is remarkable. Will the other candidates accept this? They already protest. The Zalaxians particularly find it offensive. They were traveling the stars when your ancestors were still learning to use fire." Lisa understood the politics at play. The Zalaxian Empire was the oldest civilization in the galaxy, arrogant and set in their traditions. They would see Earth's inclusion as an insult. "There will be trials," the Chancellor continued. "Each candidate must prove their worthiness. If Earth succeeds, the galaxy's center of power will shift to your solar system." Lisa's mind raced at the implications. Earth, once considered primitive, could become the heart of galactic civilization. "When do these trials begin?" she asked. "They already have," the Chancellor replied. "Even this conversation is part of the assessment." As Lisa left the chamber, she sent a secure message to Earth's president. "Prepare our people. The greatest challenge in human history has just begun." Daniel Grant studied the security feeds in his office deep beneath New Washington. As director of Earth's security forces, he had seen many threats over his 30-year career. This one worried him more than most. The message had come in encrypted from 3 different sources. Someone was planning to sabotage Earth's bid to become the new Galactic Council headquarters. "Show me the Zalaxian ship again," he told his computer system. The screen displayed a sleek vessel that had docked at Earth's orbital station 2 days ago. The Zalaxians were the oldest spacefaring race in the known galaxy. Their civilization had been exploring the stars when humans were still figuring out basic farming. They saw themselves as the natural choice for the new council seat. Daniel's assistant entered with fresh data. "Sir, we've confirmed unusual energy readings from their diplomatic quarters." "What kind of readings?" "Consistent with surveillance technology, but more advanced than anything we've seen before." Daniel nodded grimly. The 5 trials to determine the new council headquarters would begin tomorrow. The Zalaxians were clearly gathering intelligence on Earth's preparations. Across the planet, Karen White worked through the night in her laboratory. As Earth's chief scientist, she led the team preparing for the first trial, the demonstration of technological advancement. "Try the sequence again," she instructed her team. The massive device in the center of the lab hummed louder. For a moment, a small point of light appeared above it, then vanished. Karen frowned. "Something's interfering with the stabilizer." She moved to her workstation and began checking the code. After several minutes, her eyes widened. "There's an external signal disrupting our calibrations." One of her assistants looked up. "Sabotage." "Possibly. Isolate our systems and switch to the backup protocols." In orbit above Earth, the 7 members of the Council's Supreme Court had arrived to oversee the trials. They represented the most powerful and ancient species in the galaxy. Only 2 initially supported Earth's candidacy. Judge Corlin, a crystalline being from the Andromeda galaxy, spoke to his colleagues. "I have reviewed Earth's history. Their advancement from primitive technology to interstellar travel in merely 50,000 years is unprecedented." Judge Melna, a gaseous entity contained in an ornate vessel, pulsed with disagreement. "Speed is not wisdom. The Zalaxians have maintained stellar civilization for over 12 million years. Stability should be our priority. Yet the Zalaxians have not produced a significant technological innovation in the last million years," Sorlin countered. "There is value in fresh perspectives." The head judge, a being so ancient that its original form was forgotten, ended the debate. "We will judge based on the 5 trials, not on preconceptions. Earth will have its chance, as will all candidates." Back on Earth, Lisa Mercer met with President Laura Fields to discuss their strategy. "The other candidates have advantages we cannot match," Lisa explained. "The Zalaxians have the oldest civilization. The Palaxians have the largest territory. The Voth have the most advanced technology, and the Drendari have connections with nearly every species. So what do we have?" the president asked. "Adaptability, creativity, solutions no one else would think of, because we didn't follow their path of development." President Fields nodded. "Then we showcase that. We don't try to be what they are. We show them what only we can be." As the first trial approached, representatives from across the galaxy arrived on Earth. Most came from curiosity, wanting to see the young species that dared to challenge the established powers. A Zalaxian diplomat approached Lisa at the welcome reception. His ancient eyes looked down at her from his towering height. "It was kind of the Council to include Earth in this process," he said, his translator making his clicks and whistles into words. "Your species should be honored just to participate." Lisa smiled politely. "We're not just participating. We intend to win." The diplomat's skin changed color slightly. The Zalaxian equivalent of laughter. A charming sentiment. But some races are born to lead, others to follow. After 12 million years, we know which we are. Perhaps, Lisa replied, after 50,000 years, oh do we? The grand hall fell silent as the first trial began. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy watched from the stands. The trial of technology would test each world's most advanced innovation. Paul Summers wiped sweat from his forehead. As the chief engineer from Earth's Luna colony, he had been chosen to present humanity's greatest achievement. The other 4 candidates had already shown their technologies. The Zalaxians had displayed a consciousness transfer system. The Palaxians presented an energy harvester that could draw power from empty space. The Voth and Drendari had similarly impressive inventions. Now it was Earth's turn. "Humans," announced the head judge, "present your technological achievement." Paul stepped forward and activated the device he had brought. A small, unassuming silver cube floated above his palm. "Council members, honored guests, I present stable micro-wormhole technology." A murmur passed through the crowd. Wormhole technology was not new, but all previous versions required enormous power and exotic materials. "Our advancement allows creation of stable wormholes without negative mass," Paul explained. He pressed a button on the cube. A small point of light appeared above it, expanding into a perfect circle about 10 centimeters across. Through it, the audience could clearly see a view of Earth's Pacific Ocean. "This wormhole uses less power than a standard light bulb," Paul continued, "and can connect any 2 points in space regardless of distance." The Zalaxian representative immediately rose. "This is impossible. Wormhole technology without negative mass defies the laws of physics as understood for millions of years." One of the judges turned to Paul. "The Zalaxian raises a valid concern. How do you respond?" Paul smiled slightly. "It seemed impossible to us too, until we stopped trying to follow conventional approaches. Instead of bending space-time from the outside, we discovered how to persuade it to fold from within." The Zalaxian's skin flushed dark purple. This technology must have been stolen from an advanced race. Humans lack the mental capacity to make such a discovery independently. At this accusation, Samuel Garcia stepped forward. The AI historian had been anticipating this challenge. "Council members, I have brought complete records of this technology's development. Every experiment, every failure, every breakthrough. It took us 300 years of research. The solution came not from a single genius, but from thousands of minds working together, each contributing small insights." Samuel displayed holographic records showing the development process. "You'll note our solution is actually inefficient by conventional standards. We didn't discover a shortcut. We found a completely different path that no other species considered because they were too fixed on established theories." The judges examined the evidence carefully. The head judge spoke first. "This is remarkable. Not just the technology itself, but the method of discovery. Most species build knowledge like a tower, each generation adding to what came before, always following the same foundation. Humans build knowledge like a web, connecting ideas that seem unrelated, finding patterns others miss." Another judge added, "Their approach is chaotic and inefficient, yet it produces results that logical progression might never reach." The Zalaxian representative wasn't finished. "They are reckless. Such unconventional approaches could be dangerous. Or revolutionary," countered the head judge. "Remember, the council seeks not just knowledge, but wisdom in its application." Paul demonstrated the wormhole technology further, showing how it could be used for instant communication, transportation, and even medical applications. The small device could create a gateway through which surgeons could operate without making an incision. When the demonstration ended, even some of the skeptical judges seemed impressed. As Paul packed up his equipment, Ambassador Lisa approached him. "You did well," she said quietly. "Will it be enough?" Paul asked. Lisa watched the judges conferring. "It's not about having the most advanced technology. It's about showing them how we think. And I believe you just did that perfectly." The first trial was complete. Earth had made its mark. 3 more trials remained. Michelle Collins took a deep breath as she prepared for the second trial. As Earth's cultural attaché, she had spent decades studying the artistic traditions of hundreds of worlds. Now she needed to prove that humanity's culture was worthy of hosting the Galactic Council. The trial of culture would test each candidate's artistic and philosophical depth. The Council sought a homeworld rich in diverse traditions that could represent all species. The Grand Exhibition Hall had been transformed. Each candidate world had a section to display their cultural achievements. The Zolaxians area was filled with perfect crystal sculptures, each over 1,000,000 years old. The Palaxians displayed living art that shifted forms based on viewers' emotions. The Voth and Drendari had equally impressive displays. The Earth section seemed modest by comparison, but Michelle had a plan. "Begin your presentation," the head judge announced. Michelle stepped forward. "Honored judges, we offer not a single cultural tradition, but thousands. Earth does not have one voice, but many voices that somehow form a harmony." She activated the display system. The room transformed around them. Visitors suddenly stood in an ancient human cave, with primitive paintings on the walls. Then the scene shifted to an Egyptian pyramid, then a Greek amphitheater, a Chinese imperial palace, an indigenous American village. Unlike many older species who eventually merged into a single planetary culture, humans maintained distinct traditions even as we united, Michelle explained. The scenes continued to shift. Renaissance art galleries, jazz clubs from the 1920s, Bollywood films, African tribal ceremonies, and modern zero-gravity dance performances from orbital colonies. Kevin Harris, an anthropologist specializing in interspecies cultural exchange, joined the presentation. "What makes human culture unique is not just its diversity, but its adaptability. We don't just preserve our traditions, we let them evolve and blend with others." He demonstrated how Earth had become a center for cultural preservation after many older civilizations had homogenized their traditions for efficiency. Over 50 alien art forms that had been abandoned by their original creators were now practiced and preserved on Earth. When the Novalian singing crystals were forgotten by their creators, it was human musicians who learned the ancient techniques. Kevin explained, "When the last Thrandal philosopher died, her school of thought continued through her human students." One of the judges spoke up. "This is curious. Most species guard their cultural traditions jealously. Why do humans adopt those of others?" Michelle smiled. "Because we recognize beauty and wisdom wherever we find it. Our strength comes from incorporating new ideas rather than rejecting them." The displays changed again, showing how human culture had evolved after contact with alien species. New art forms had emerged that blended human emotions with alien perspectives. Music composed for both human ears and alien sensory organs played softly in the background. Earth preserves more distinct cultural threads than any planet in the galaxy, Kevin concluded. "We don't see this as a burden, but as our greatest treasure." The Zolaxian representative scoffed. "Primitive traditions preserved like museum pieces. What value is there in keeping outdated customs?" The head judge turned to the Zolaxian. "Connection to one's past provides context for the future. A species that forgets its beginnings may lose sight of its path." As the judges moved through Earth's cultural display, they seemed genuinely engaged. Some spent time examining ancient books. Others listened to music that spanned 50,000 years of human creativity. A few engaged in philosophical debates with human scholars about concepts that had evolved from ancient human thinking. When the trial concluded, Michelle found Lisa waiting for her. "How did we do?" Michelle asked. Lisa nodded toward the judges. "Look at them. They're still discussing what they saw." None of the other presentations generated this much conversation. "Is that good or bad?" "It's exactly what we wanted," Lisa replied. "We've made them think. The next trial will be more challenging. They'll test our strength, and that's where many expect us to fail." Michelle looked concerned. "Can we win that one?" "Not in the way they expect," Lisa said. "But that's been our advantage all along." General Patricia Nelson stood tall as she faced the judges for the third trial. At 62 years old, she had commanded Earth's defense forces for 15 years. Her gray hair was cut short, and her uniform bore only a few simple medals, unlike the ornate military dress of the other candidates. The trial of strength would test each world's ability to defend the Galactic Council. The Zolaxians had already displayed their massive warships and planet-destroying weapons. The Palaxians had shown off their impenetrable shield technology. The Voth and Drendari had demonstrated equally impressive military might. Earth was known to have a capable defense force, but nothing that could match the raw power of civilizations millions of years older. Earth representative, display your military capabilities, the head judge instructed. Patricia nodded. Honored judges, Earth will not show you weapons of mass destruction. We will not display ships that can shatter planets or beams that can extinguish stars. Murmurs spread through the audience. The Zalaxian representative smiled, clearly believing Earth had already conceded defeat. Instead, Patricia continued, we will show you something more valuable. Adaptability. She activated a holographic display. It showed a strange network of interconnected satellites, ships, and ground stations surrounding Earth. This is the Terran Defense Grid. It was not designed to overpower attackers but to outthink them. Adam Wright, Earth's chief military strategist, stepped forward to explain. The most powerful weapon can be rendered useless if it cannot hit its target. The most impenetrable shield fails if it cannot adapt to new weapons. Adam demonstrated how the defense grid worked. When faced with a simulated attack using energy weapons, the grid reconfigured to absorb and redirect the energy. When faced with physical projectiles, it created precise gravity fields to alter their trajectories. When faced with biological weapons, it deployed countermeasures specific to each threat. In our history, humans fought many wars against each other, Adam explained. We learned that the side with the bigger weapons didn't always win. Victory often went to those who could adapt faster than their enemy. One of the judges spoke. Impressive, but this seems entirely defensive. How would you protect council interests beyond your system? Patricia smiled slightly. The grid is just one application of our approach. We have smaller, mobile versions that can deploy anywhere in the galaxy within days. She demonstrated rapid response ships that contained modular defense systems. These could combine in countless ways depending on the threat. Our military strength comes not from overwhelming firepower, but from never fighting the same way twice, Patricia explained. An enemy cannot prepare for what they cannot predict. The Zalaxian representative scoffed. This is the strategy of the weak. True strength comes from power so great that none dare challenge it. Patricia turned to face him directly. With respect, that philosophy has started more wars than it has prevented. Earth believes true strength lies in resilience, not dominance. The head judge seemed thoughtful. An interesting perspective. Throughout galactic history, arms races have indeed led to devastating conflicts. As the demonstration continued, Patricia showed how Earth's approach had been shaped by its violent past. Humans once nearly destroyed themselves with their own weapons. We learned that lesson at great cost. Our current philosophy emerged from that near extinction. One of the judges who had been quiet until now finally spoke. This is unexpected. Most species present their capacity for destruction as proof of their worthiness. You present your restraint. Destruction is easy, Patricia replied. Protection is hard. The Council needs a home that can adapt to any threat, not just overwhelm known ones. When the trial ended, the judges seemed deep in thought. Earth's approach had been unlike any other candidates. Daniel Grant met Patricia as she left the demonstration area. They didn't seem impressed, Patricia said quietly. They weren't supposed to be impressed, Daniel replied. They were supposed to be intrigued, and they were. Will it be enough? That depends on how they define strength. If they want the biggest guns, we lose. If they want the smartest defense, we may have a chance. Patricia nodded. The next trial is diplomacy. That's where Lisa takes center stage. And that, Daniel said, is where Earth truly shines. Ambassador Ryan Cooper adjusted his formal suit as he entered the diplomatic chamber. The fourth trial would test each candidate's ability to solve conflicts between different species. This was the area where Earth had gained its greatest reputation over the millennia. The chamber held representatives from two species that had been in conflict for over 300 years, the Vorlax and the Thandorians. Their dispute over a shared star system had caused 3 wars and countless smaller conflicts. The Council had tried to mediate for centuries without success. Each candidate world would have 6 hours to propose a solution. The Zelaxians had already presented their approach, which involved dividing the contested system with strict borders and penalties. The Palaxians, Voth, and Drendari had offered similarly rigid solutions based on existing galactic laws. Now it was Earth's turn. "Begin your mediation," the head judge instructed. Ryan nodded and did something unexpected. Instead of addressing the judges, he turned to the Vorlax and Thandorian representatives. "Before I propose any solution, I need to understand what each of you truly wants," he said. Susan Mitchell, Earth's negotiation expert, joined him. Together, they spent the first 2 hours simply listening to both sides. They asked questions not just about territorial claims but about cultural needs, historical grievances, and future hopes. The judges watched with growing interest as Ryan and Susan built rapport with the conflicting parties. "This is not how diplomatic mediation is typically conducted," one judge whispered to another. "Humans have always been unusual in their approach to conflict," the other replied. "They place great emphasis on emotional understanding." After listening carefully, Ryan finally spoke. "I believe the core issue isn't about territory at all. The Vorlax need the system's unusual radiation for their reproductive cycle. The Thandorians need access to the rare minerals on the 4th planet for their religious ceremonies." Both representatives looked surprised that he had identified concerns they hadn't explicitly stated. "Our proposal is not a division of the system, but shared governance with specific protections for each species' essential needs," Ryan continued. "We've used similar models to resolve conflicts on Earth for thousands of years." He outlined a governance structure where both species would maintain their dignity while ensuring their critical needs were met. The plan drew from Earth's historical peace processes, including elements from ancient treaties like the Peace of Westphalia and the United Nations Charter. One of the judges interrupted. "Your approach relies heavily on understanding emotional needs. Isn't this too subjective for proper diplomacy? Logic should guide such decisions." Susan Mitchell stepped forward. "With respect, Judge, logic alone rarely resolves deep conflicts. Peace comes when all parties feel their essential concerns are addressed, not just when boundaries are logically drawn." The Zelaxian representative scoffed. "This emotional approach proves humans are too primitive for council leadership. True diplomacy requires detachment, not emotional entanglement." Ryan turned to address this criticism directly. "We don't see emotion as separate from reason. Understanding how different species feel is precisely what allows us to find solutions that last. It's not a weakness. It's our greatest diplomatic strength." To everyone's surprise, both the Vorlax and Thandorian representatives expressed cautious support for Earth's proposal. They requested more time to discuss the specifics but agreed the approach addressed concerns that other candidates had missed entirely. As the trial concluded, the judges seemed divided. Some were clearly impressed by Earth's unorthodox but effective approach. Others remained skeptical of diplomatic methods that incorporated emotional intelligence alongside logical reasoning. Lisa met Ryan as he left the chamber. "How did it go?" she asked. Ryan smiled slightly. "We got both parties talking about solutions rather than problems. That's always a good sign. The Zelaxians are saying our approach proves we're too primitive for the council." "Of course they are," Ryan replied. "But I noticed something interesting. 3 of the judges were nodding when I explained our reasoning. They understand that diplomatic solutions need to work in practice, not just in theory." Lisa looked thoughtful. 2 trials down, 1 to go. The environmental trial tomorrow will be our last chance to make our case. "Earth has come a long way from its environmental disasters," Ryan said. "If any trial should showcase human progress, it's that one." Dr. Nancy Rodriguez stood at the edge of Central Park in New York City. Once, long ago, this had been one of the only green spaces in a concrete jungle. Now the entire city was a blend of natural and artificial systems working together in perfect harmony. Trees grew through and around buildings. Gardens flourished on every rooftop. Animals moved freely through special corridors that connected green spaces. Today, she would present Earth's environmental management in the fifth and final trial. It was perhaps the most important test, as the Council needed a homeworld that could sustain thousands of different species from across the galaxy. The judges gathered around her as she began her presentation. Honored judges, 50,000 years ago, Earth stood on the brink of environmental collapse. Human activities had caused mass extinction, climate change, and pollution that threatened all life. She directed their attention to historical images showing Earth's darkest environmental period: dead oceans, burning forests, and smog-choked cities. Our ancestors faced a choice: change or perish. They chose change. William Jackson, Earth's leading environmental engineer, continued the presentation. He showed how humans had developed the Gaia Protocol, a planetary management system that treated Earth as a single living organism. We stopped fighting nature and started working with it, he explained. Instead of controlling our environment, we learned to be part of it. The judges followed as Nancy led them through a series of environments. They walked from the lush park into a residential district where homes were built within and around living trees. They visited a manufacturing center that produced no waste because everything was either biodegradable or recycled. They toured a power generation facility that derived energy from the natural movements of the planet itself. The Gaia Protocol has now been adopted by over 200 human colony worlds, Nancy explained. Each adaptation is unique to its environment. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. One of the judges, a being composed mostly of water, seemed particularly impressed. Most species try to force their homeworlds to adapt to them. You have adapted with your world instead. The Zolaxian representative was less impressed. This is all very charming, but the Galactic Council requires more than gardens and parks. Our facilities have precise environmental requirements. William nodded. We anticipated that concern. He led them to a special environmental chamber that had been constructed for the trial. Inside, the conditions matched those of the Zolaxian homeworld perfectly, from atmospheric pressure to specific radiation levels that Zolaxians needed for health. Earth can support any environment required, William explained. We have created self-sustaining biospheres for over 3,000 different species. Each one is carefully balanced to maintain itself with minimal intervention. The head judge seemed genuinely surprised. How did humans develop such flexibility? Most species can only tolerate a narrow range of conditions. Nancy smiled. That's precisely why we had to develop these solutions. Humans can only survive in a limited range of environments naturally. We had to learn how to create and maintain environments we couldn't live in ourselves. She showed them Earth's environmental monitoring system. Millions of sensors across the planet measured everything from air quality to soil composition, all feeding into a central system that could make tiny adjustments to maintain perfect balance. The most remarkable thing, Nancy continued, is that much of this system now functions without human intervention. We set the parameters, but the system is self-correcting. As the judges concluded their tour, they witnessed a brief ceremony where a section of New York that had once been heavily polluted was officially declared fully restored, the last such area on Earth to complete its environmental rehabilitation. The head judge spoke quietly to Nancy as they returned to the council chambers. In 15,000 years, your species transformed from nearly destroying your planet to becoming its most dedicated protector. That is a remarkable journey. Nancy nodded. We learned the hardest way possible that our fate and Earth's fate are one and the same. It's a lesson we'll never forget. As the environmental trial concluded, Earth had completed all 5 challenges. Now, the 7 supreme judges would retire to make their final decision. The Grand Hall of Decisions was filled to capacity. Representatives from over 700 species had gathered to witness the announcement. The 7 supreme judges sat in a semicircle on the raised platform. Their faces, of various alien forms, revealed nothing of their decision. Earth's delegation sat in the front row. President Laura Fields, Ambassador Lisa Mercer, and the leaders of each trial team waited silently. The Zalaxian delegation sat nearby, looking confident. The other three candidate worlds seemed less certain of victory. Jack Bennett, the historian who had first discovered the ancient records calling Earth a death world, had been invited to join the Earth delegation at the last moment. He sat at the end of their row, still surprised to be included in such a historic event. The head judge rose. The hall fell completely silent. The council has existed for over 30 million years, the ancient being began. In that time, we have moved our seat of government only twice. Today, we move it again. This decision will shape galactic civilization for millennia to come. The judge paused, looking at each delegation in turn. All 5 candidates have proven themselves worthy in different ways. The Zalaxians showed us the value of stability and tradition. The Palaxians demonstrated territorial management on a massive scale. The Voth and Drendari each presented compelling cases for their worlds. Another pause. The tension in the room was palpable. However, the council must look not just to the past and present, but to the future. We must select not just a home, but a vision for what galactic civilization can become. The head judge's gaze settled on the Earth delegation. By unanimous decision, the first in 12,000 years, Earth has been selected as the new home of the Galactic Council. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then the hall erupted in a mix of reactions. Many species cheered. Some murmured in surprise. The Zalaxian delegation sat rigidly, their skin darkening in anger. President Fields rose to accept the honor. The head judge raised a hand for silence. Before Earth's president speaks, I wish to explain our decision. Earth was chosen not despite its youth, but because of it. In a galaxy where many civilizations measure their histories in millions of years, humanity's perspective is uniquely valuable. The judge continued, most elder races have settled into fixed patterns of thought. Humans still question, adapt, and reimagine. The Council needs this renewal if it is to guide our galaxy through the challenges ahead. President Fields stepped onto the platform. She was a tall woman with dark skin and silver hair, her simple blue suit lacking the ornate decorations of the other delegation leaders. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we accept this honor with deep gratitude and profound responsibility, she began. 50,000 years ago, humans looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. Today, we stand among you as partners and friends. Her voice grew stronger. Earth will not seek to remake the Council in our image. We will be a home for all species, a meeting place for all traditions, and a beacon of cooperation across the stars. As the ceremony concluded, preparations began immediately for the Great Transfer, moving the Council's central operations to Earth. It would take years to complete, but the decision was now official. Jack Bennett found himself alone with Lisa Mercer as the crowds dispersed. I still can't believe it, he said. 50,000 years ago, we were considered primitives on a death world. Now we'll host the galaxy's government. Lisa smiled. Perhaps it's because we never forgot what it was like to struggle. Most elder races have forgotten their beginnings. Jack hesitated, then spoke quietly. There's something I haven't told anyone. In those ancient archives, I found evidence suggesting humans might have been genetically engineered by a now extinct precursor race. Our adaptability, our creativity, they might not be accidents. Lisa looked surprised. Are you saying our rise was planned? I'm saying our potential was planted long ago, like a seed. What grew from it, that was entirely our own doing. As they looked out at the representatives of hundreds of worlds preparing to make Earth their new center of government, Jack felt a strange sense of completion. Perhaps, he said, this is what we were always meant to become.